In this lesson, we're going to go over solving for a variable in terms of other variables. That's why we have a bunch of different letters at the top. If you remember, when we were solving linear equations, we typically got one solution that was a number. In this case, when we're solving for a variable that we're asked to solve in terms of other variables, it means that we'll have x equals and then it'll be some other variables rather than just one number, depending on the equation. So what we'll do is we'll apply our understanding of solving linear equations and be able to solve for a variable in terms of other variables. So a couple of suggestions is underline the variable that you were asked to solve for and treat this variable like you would solving for like x or another variable in the linear equation where you're trying to isolate it to find out what it's equal to. So in example 1, we'll do a side-by-side comparison. On the left-hand side is a linear equation that we talked about previously, and on the right-hand side is where we'll get into solving an equation, solving for a variable in terms of other variables in a linear equation. Okay, so I'm going to split this in two. For the equation on the left, if our goal, our instructions say solve for x, so we're solving for x, and in order to do that, to isolate it, we need to move the 9. Since the 9 is being subtracted, we add it to both sides to get 6x equals 30. Okay, moving to the equation on the right, similarly, we're being asked to solve for x, and in this case, instead of a minus a number, we're dealing with a variable, another variable. So we have minus y, and then that's equal to z. So in order to isolate x, we need to move the y. So same principle applies. Just like we added the 9, we add y to both sides. Okay. Now we bring down the 6x, the y's cancel. Z plus y is just z plus y. You can only condense it down to one term if they're like terms. So for instance, if we had like z plus z, that would be 2z. Okay, but in this case, we have z plus y. They're not like terms, so it just stays as z plus y. Okay, over here, 21 plus 9 is 30 because those are like terms that we could add together. Okay, so moving on the left-hand side, we have 6 times x equals 30, so 6 times some number equals 30. To isolate x, we divide both sides by 30 and get x is equal to 5. Okay, on the right-hand side, same idea, we need to isolate x. That 6 is being multiplied by x, so we need to divide both sides by 6. So we have x is equal to z plus y over 6 is just z plus y over 6. Okay, so we've solved for our variable x, and it is in terms of other variables. So other variables are on the other side of the equal sign. So let's get into some examples. Solve for the indicated letter. So part A, solve for the letter L, so I'm going to underline it. Okay, so to isolate L, you want to maybe think about what is in your way of getting it by itself. In this case, it's being multiplied by W. So in order to move the W, we divide by W on both sides. Okay, so we have A over W is equal to multiplication by W and division by W cancels equal to L. Okay, one note is that software tends to be picky, and so notice here how the variables are given to you in all capitals, and so when you're entering your answer, make sure that you're matching what you were given to begin with. Okay, in part B, we have P is equal to B plus 2A plus 3C, and we're being asked to solve for B. Okay, so taking a look, what's in your way? Well, the positive 2A and the positive 3C. So you can move those in one step, or you can move them in two. So I'm going to start by subtracting 2A from both sides. And again, on the left-hand side, P minus 2A is just P minus 2A. This is equal to B. On the right, our positive 2A and our negative 2A canceled out, and we have plus 3C. Okay, again, we're solving for B, so we need to get rid of the 3C or move it to the other side. Okay, and this might be easier. I'll write this as 3C. So we have P minus 2A minus 3C. So write it just like we said it. Okay. And this would be our final answer. One thing you can also do for these problems is let's just say we had P is equal to, give myself some room here. Let's say B and then just plus 2A. So if we're moving the 2A, you can go horizontal instead of vertical. What I mean by that is my work is stacked vertically here, whereas up here horizontal, you're working in the same line. Adding or subtracting 2A from one side and subtracting it to the other might be a little bit easier to see that this stays as P minus 2A equals B. This is a different problem. I just shortened it to show you that there's a different way you can write and organize your work. Example 3, solve for the indicated letter. So we're solving for capital B. Okay, so again, what's in our way? Well, the 5 is and the 9c is. So we start by moving the terms that are being added or subtracted first. So minus 9c minus 9c. This is 5b plus. Positive 9c and negative 9c cancel, so there's no plus. We have equal sign a minus 9c, and that should be a capital C, just like what I mentioned. And then now we're still solving for b. B is being multiplied by 5. So in order to isolate b, we divide by 5 on both sides. So our final answer is b is equal to a minus 9c over 5. That's a 5, not an S. All right, the last example, solving for the indicated letter. Here we're asked to solve for r. So again, we first move terms that are being added and subtracted. So we'll subtract 5t from both sides. So we have p minus 5t equals 5r. We're still solving for r, and r is being multiplied by 5, so we divide. Okay, so we have r is equal to p minus 5t over 5. Okay, this is the final answer. Be very careful. I'm going to write it in red. Oops. P minus 5t over 5. The temptation here is to cancel the 5s and say p minus t. That's not correct. When you're simplifying, if you're going to cancel things out, it needs to come out of every term. So if the p had a 5, sure, that would work. But since the p doesn't have a 5, it can't come out of anything being multiplied by p. You can't simplify that way. If you were looking to make this smaller, which you're not required to do, we could go back to this step here. So we had p minus 5t is equal to 5r. What you could do instead, the equivalent of dividing entire sides by the same number, is dividing each term by the same number. Okay, so this would be p over 5 minus 5t over 5 equals r. And notice how now we've got one fraction with a 5 on top and 5 on bottom, so you could cancel the 5's here, and this would be p over 5 minus t is equal to r. Okay, so either one of these boxed answers would work. Just be very careful when you're looking to cancel anything out. Okay, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.